Okay, it looks like we're at the top of the hour, so we're going to go ahead and start. Just want to thank everybody for joining. And today is October the 18th, 2011. And my name is Todd Maxwell, and I'm Head Director of Technical Sales and also the support team. Many of you know who I am. But this topic is really important because we're seeing a lot of tickets that come in with this where our support team has noticed certain things that we probably do bring up on a webinar. That's why we're bringing these to your attention. But today's is going to be about, are you getting your emails from your RAID controller? So a lot of times we do not see them set up properly. A lot of times we get the emails that state, I never received an error or a warning or some type of alert that would help you, especially for a disaster issue or some type of maintenance or response time that is important. So what we're going to do is just access the RAID controllers, and I got about 3 of them that I'm going to show you. We're going to enter the email settings for the RAID controller and then run a test real quickly on them. And then, of course, let's go over some simple troubleshoots. Probably a lot of you already know, but I do this just to cover the video process, as many as you know. The LSI RAID controllers that in the email setup, because I want to talk about the LSI, how it's integrated with the DSS v6, and then we'll go to show right live. So I don't like to stay too long on PowerPoints, as you all well know. But I want to let everybody know that the webinars are recorded. They're located in the under the website under www.open-e.com, and there is a Libraries tab. And if you click on the Libraries tab, it's down there on the bottom, and at the end I will show you. Presentation is muted. Well, that's for obvious reasons, for background noise. And if you do call the conference, just please mute your phone so we don't hear the background noise. That helps you hear me. Questions are always welcomed, and there is a chat window on the right side. Many of you already know about this and have been chatting with me early. And it's right there on the right side. If you wish to know a question near the end or in a health break, I'll be happy to answer it. All right, so let's go ahead and begin. Let's exit out of the PowerPoint presentation. Give me a second here. And we're going to bring up the 2 DSS systems that I have. So let's just verify that we are able to see both of them. And it looks like we are. Okay. If you look up here, I have 2 DSS systems. One's called DSS and one's called DSS Destination. I named it just for naming conventions. But usually on the first of the webinars, I usually like to point out what version I'm using. This is just released, by the way. It's the last build number 5794. Previous build was 5626. This just was released on Friday of last week, and there is some updates to it that we did. If you want to find out what they are, it's under maintenance and software updates, so if you want to look at the release notes, or you're welcome to go ahead and view them before you download it that we have on our website. So here's all the new release information that we have, what's updated, and what has been fixed. All right. So on this system that I have here, we're going to go right into the hardware RAID and verify which RAID controller we have. Here I put 2 RAID controllers in here. I have a 3-ware and I have an Arica. The 3-ware I believe is the 97 series. We'll take a look at that. Of course they all work. Or the 9750, and the other one is the Arica 1680. Many of you know that the 1680 does have an Ethernet port in the back end, which makes it useful to get information, and a lot of engineers do like it. All of the RAID controllers has the ability to set up an email alert. So I really want to make this really clear to everyone because we do see tickets where people really don't set up the email, or they may have changed the email domain or their outgoing email server, and you want to be aware of that and test it. It's very easy to test them. So it's important that you get this information. One of the first things you really want to do with DSS is make sure your time is set properly. This is important for you to receive timely mannered emails. And then it also lessens the confusion if you have different times. So you want to make sure, like I'm located right here in Atlanta in our office, I want to usually set the nearest city that's in my time zone, or the time zone that you have in your city. For my case, it would be New York. So here I want to make sure my time value is set properly and use my NTP services. So you want to make sure that you do see the date and time listed properly right here. Once you have that set, let's just go ahead and explore our first array controller. Let's go back into Setup, and we'll go into Hardware Array, and we're going to go right into the 3DM tools for the ThreeWare. Now, many of you know, if you don't, that the ThreeWare default access login is you want to click on Administrator, and the password is ThreeWare. And once we access this, then we'll go right ahead and set up our email notification. Most of the array controllers and the way they set up with the email is that they need the outgoing email server. So what we're going to do is we're going to click on the 3DM2 settings. And here I've already set it up. So as I mentioned, you're going to need the mail server, which is your simple mail transfer protocol, port 25 email server. This is where you're going to also need your incoming information. So the email server can also be something you have in locally. Just make sure that it is able to go outbound. So if you're off on site, you can also do some setups with emails that also set up to your cell phone. So you receive it by your cell phone as well, so you get some notification. What ThreeWare has done is they pointed in this so that you need a sender information name and, of course, the recipients. Here you could separate it by semicolon to add more email addresses. Now, the recipients, I'm going to put myself, and of course I've got my mail server. And a lot of times they'll probably want instead of the IP address, that you could use the mail server's name. Obviously, you know how to find the IP address by pinging your mail server's name. So if this was to be mail servers 1.und1.de or a .com, then you would be able to ping it to find out the IP address. Here, we've put the IP address for this mail server. And of course, this is for your authentication information when you log into your email server. So yours might be different than what I have here. It might be, let's say yours could be like Todd Maxwell at open-e.com might be the login information, and of course your password. Make sure that you do, if you're using SSL, to make sure you specify that and you note that for the ThreeWare. Save your settings, and then you want to test your email. So this is where it's very important. I've seen many cases where they've changed the email server, they made some adjustments, or somebody leaves and it's no longer Todd who works there at the company. I want to verify that you have the newer person's name listed in there. So up here you're going to see email test message sent with authentication, and of course it wants you to check it and verify it. Well, that's very simple. What we'll do is we'll bring up the email, and let's kill these and see what we got right now, and we'll do a send and receive. And sometimes I've noticed that, and there we have it, that if you do send out more than one email address, one mail server might be faster than the other. So I found that out, like testing it this morning, that my private account took longer than my OpenE account. Guess that goes for the product that we sell real fast. Anyway, so as we look for this, we see that we've got our test email, and now we're happy that we're going to be able to get alerts from the ThreeWare array controller. So that concludes with ThreeWare on configuring the email settings. Let's go ahead and drop out of this and go back into our DSSV6 where I've added another array controller. Here we're going to use the Arika. I noticed if you want to just do the Arika with the Alert Manager, you can do it right here on the Mail Alert Configuration Manager, or you can actually go into the array controller. Either way, it doesn't make a difference. I think what we'll do is I'll just show both so you can see it. So here it's really direct. You can set up all your IP addresses, your bindings, your mail configuration. Here you can set it up in this notation, or you can also click right here into the main controller. So we'll bring, by the way, the login for default for Arika, in case you don't want to Google it, is admin and 0000, so 4 zeros. So as we're waiting for the Arika to load up, we'll go ahead and then let's go ahead and see what's going on. Let's try it again. Let's reload that tab. There we go. All right. So here with the Arika, what's really unique about the 1680 is that you do have a NIC port on the back end. And of course, you can set it for your IP addresses, and also has DHCP capabilities, so you can obtain an IP address. But I like to know what my IP addresses are in my network, especially when related to my array controller. So you want to pretty much set your information here. Obviously, your SMTP port is 25 is by default. Here, if you look on alert by mail configuration, now again, I set up the same parameters. I have my IP address from my Simple Mail Transfer Protocol, or my SMTP server, the IP address that I have. And I put the sender names. I like to use my email address, but others may have a different name, or root, or localhost, or they might have another naming convention. Here again, you put your email address, and if you have multiple email addresses, you place them down here. So Areca does it a little different than Freeware. And of course, you set your user authentication login account information. For again, many of you, and for me, it would probably be, if I were to use my other OpenE account, it would be todd.maxwell@open-e.com, and of course my password. And they have a unique way of just confirming and running the test, so that way you can get event notifications. Now, what's different about the Areca here, to let you know that the email was out, is that they pretty much divide up the responsibilities of the event notifications. So here you can specify disable event notification, urgent error notification, and there's more details in their help documentation for this. So Areca is pretty simple as well as the Freeware. And so now let's just go right into, there's a reason to test email. We know it works. You've seen it with Freeware. We'll go right into the LSI. Actually, let's do the DSS, and then we'll go into the LSI for the what's called, you could use the MSM, the Mega RAID Storage Manager, or you can use the what's called the Intel RAID Web Console tools. So for DSS on, we have the LSI built in our GUI. If you go to Hardware Array Controller, you'll notice that we did not put the email notification on setup process here under the Hardware Array Controller. Well, that's due because we have worked with the LSI engineers and integrated the LSI error notification with our email notification. So you'll be looking around, where is the email notification? You won't find it here. Where you will be finding it is in the Setup, Administrator, and then if you scroll right on down, you'll see Email Notification. So here again, we have the email notification tied in with OpenE, but we also have it set up for the LSI Array Controller. Now, be aware that there are older LSI array controllers that don't have, that we didn't integrate. Oh, if you have an array controller back in 2006 or 2007, you might have some issues with some older array controllers that we did not incorporate with the drivers and the DSS v6. So you want to kind of look into that and test them before you do. But that doesn't mean that you can't still, on that array controller, set up the email alert system. And we'll go into that. So for most of your newer SATA and SAS array controllers, the LSI, we have it built in our email system. So in the DSS email notification, we want to make sure the account setting is similar to what we talked about previously with the Areca and Freeware. And also to use the account information for the authentication. And then, of course, the password. And then, of course, the outgoing mail server. Here again, you could use if it was a name instead of an IP address, we give you the option of doing that. But if you have the IP address, you can go ahead and enter. And also the destination email. You can use the default account, which would be representative of the email account that we have up here, or others. You notice here I've added an additional email account. So I've got a personal email account and also my business account. Now once I hit apply, this is then going to send a test message. And here again, it says, test message sent, please check your email. So if you notice, the other array controllers state the same thing, is that if you did have an error, let's say we had an issue with the outgoing email server and it changed, then what you want to do is test it with your own email system. Verify that you are getting an email before you start troubleshooting that it's a DSS issue. Let's say email did not come out for whatever reason, and it failed for, let's say you weren't able to get a mail message back quick enough. One of the things you want to check in DSS is go to Setup and in your network, make sure that you have outside access to the gateway and also your DNS settings. So you want to make sure that DNS is properly set up. If you have an ADS server, you can add an additional server, just put a semicolon, and you can add other servers on the network. That might be your mail server. You'll notice we just got our email from the DSS. So we just got a test message that the DSS destination was just tested and we received our email. So you want to make sure that if you have multiple DNS servers, please put them in there, separated by a semicolon, and then after that want to verify that you have the gateway set. So here I want to make sure that my gateway is able to get to the outside. You can verify if you're able to get out to the outside internet. Very simple. The tool is to ping inside the console tools. Another idea is to check for updates in the maintenance software update. But in the console tools, in the console screen, console tools, Control-Alt-T, you'll see a ping option, and there you can go ahead and ping. So that's the real simple process of setting up the email that's working with the LSI array controller in DSS v6. Now let's say you have you're setting up array controller with the LSI, and you really don't want to use DSS for that. So you may want to use probably the LSI array controller. So here I'm using the Intel RAID web console tools. You can use the what's called MSM, the Mega RAID Storage Manager, which is similar to this. And here you want to be able to, I'm using the 9265-8i. So here I want to be able to go to set up the email, is go to Tools, Configure Alerts. And here you have the severity levels, the alert level methods, and then what you want to do, and if you want to edit them, you can. You can pretty much add them into pop-ups, emails, or system logs. Here I want to make sure that my fatal and criticals are always sending me emails. Then I want to set up my mail server, and here I have my email address that I'm going to be using, and once again the outgoing mail server. So I'm going to be using the same one. And the server requires authentication. Yes. Notice how it's different. This time they state that they state it differently than the freeware and the Eureka. Make sure that you set your password and verify it, and of course you save your backup and you can save your monitor mail config. And at this point, what we could do is we added the name. Let's get rid of that because I don't have a root at localhost. And here we will test it. And then it again sends another message. So it says test your email, selected recipients, and verify. This is typical with all of them. And looks like we just received it. Let's look at, oh, we got an event too. We got one from test generation, generated email configuration. So this is with the RAID controller. If you look, DSS 1-69. So it's what the LSI does is it sends it from the host machine, and that's how it sends that message. So here, if you look, let's go ahead and say yes, we have DSS destination right here. That's where it's picking up that host name. So if you get confused, that's pretty where the LSI is translating to send its email, where it is located at, and of course it informs us. Well, that's pretty much it. So I'm glad I was able to do this. Hopefully we got it covered for everyone because there was just so many emails we're getting on RAID controller events that people are not setting their email properly. Again, I always at the end talk about where our webinars are located at. Right here on our website, if you go to libraries, right here in the libraries tab, click on webcast and videos. and you will see a lot of the webinars that we have been generating, Greg and myself and Giannis. There's a lot of information here, so we're going to be changing these and categorizing them more. Also want to keep everybody alerted about the how-to resources. There's a lot of information here as well, especially with setting up the replications. So here's with auto failover, NAS, especially with NFS auto failover, and also the data replication. Everybody, if you would, please join our forums. They're available to everyone, and we'd love to see everybody here, especially with using our search engine. If you had, let's say, a question about MPIO, if you looked at our search engine, has an incredible way of breaking it down from forums to knowledge-based information. And here, if you click on here, it lists all the forums and categorizes it by date. So the forums are very active. Our support team, all of us join on the forums to help you, and we pretty much have a good response time.